What up, fam? It's me, your favorite cousin, your favorite uncle, your favorite nephew, your favorite father, your favorite brother, your favorite son, your best friend's best friend. It's me, Dr. Larry, and welcome to Living For You, the YouTube channel. This is a safe space, a common place, a tranquil place, a place where we come and we grow and we become our best selves. Not yesterday, not in the future, but today, in the present. We learn to live more present lives. Living For You is a whole network of stuff, but our biggest thing is life coaching. I am Dr. Larry Smith. I am a certified life and spiritual coach, amongst other things. If you want to know more about me, you can actually go to www.liveforyoucoaching.com. That is www.liveforyoucoaching.com, and there's a host of other things that you can get into out there that can be useful to you in your present walk to be healthy and whole, dealing with trauma and dealing with all kinds of stuff, and being the best you. To my loyal, faithful subscribers, hey, I love you guys, your family. Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed this video just as you enjoy the others. And those of you who are brand new, as I stated before, I'm Dr. Larry Smith. And this is the place I come weekly, and we talk and we chat it up about many different things, from the news, from entertainment. There's life coaching, of course. There's business talk. There's a whole bunch of stuff that I do here. So if you come and you just go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And you guys, I get in front of this camera every week and I enjoy it. I'm hoping you enjoy it. So if you do and you watch it, go ahead and like and give thumbs up to the videos. Leave comments and do all those things so that we can continue to grow this network, and this positivity and this good energy is spread all over the world, the internet, and maybe even further. Maybe we can pull some of this in person. Whatever the case may be, let's get this thing popping and popular. Popping and popular. Anyway, welcome to the channel. I love you all. Today I wanted to get on and talk about this Married to Medicine. You know, I've been doing reviews of the episodes. I said I was going to do that when the season 8 started. So I'm just kind of continuing in that trend, trying to be consistent and trying to do well for you guys to get the information out there about Married to Medicine and whatever. Now, you guys know I'm not your typical summary of the episode reviewer. There are many people out there. Funky Deneva's one of them. He was actually on the episode. He's one of my favorite quasi Instagram, Facebook friends, but he's also just been entertaining to watch for many, many years. You also have Bondi Blue. She's from Louisiana, like me. Shout out to New Orleans and to Louisiana. And then you also have many other people that can be named. Richie Sky, I enjoy him a lot. So there's other ones that you can go and find out a summary of the episode, because they do break it down, whatever. I see it more from a life coach's perspective, and that's what we do here. So I discuss those things, introduce practical spirituality into it, and a whole bunch of other things, life coaching, and you name it. That's what we do here. So do not expect a summary from me. Just expect some entertaining stuff from a life coach's perspective, because that is what I do. But anyway, so this episode was actually interesting because we got a lot of opportunities to see Anila, you know, Toya's friend, the co-Aries on the show, and some of that pulls itself out into this episode, by the way, that we'll talk about later on. But we get that kind of as our beginning focal point, where we get to see Anila and Toya interact in their environment, and their environment is this super chic, upscale kind of. It seems like it's Toya's dream environment, because she seems to thrive in this environment. She seems to really enjoy it, and she seems to chase towards that environment, which there's no problem in wanting more. We know Toya's from Detroit. If you've watched the show and you've been here for these 8 seasons, you know she's from Detroit, from a tough neighborhood, and so this experience of this life is something of a dream for her, and so I get it. And we see her go and play tennis, her and Anila, and they're in the tennis community. And one thing I love about this show in particular, and to me this is it's like a closer look into the professional African-American / other groups' lifestyle in the Atlanta area. For those of you who live in Atlanta, you know what I'm talking about when I say this. For those of you who don't know about Atlanta, Atlanta is kind of what people want to call a black Mecca, because there is a whole list and whole litany of African-American professionals. I lived there for 10 years, so I was one of the African-American professionals on the Atlanta seen, and so it does give insight into that, because that is such a contradictory narrative to what you have seen in the media for many, many, many years, that there are black doctors and black people with money and wealth and common sense. And so we get a chance to see that. And that's what I love about the show. And I love that they actually take the time to go and interact with these people while they're at work. So at the beginning of the episode, we get Dr. Dr. Jackie, we get Dr. Simone, we get Dr. Toya's husband, Eugene. We get everybody there kind of showing us what it's like. And they're still discussing COVID, because obviously one of the most pressing issues of 2020 was the COVID situation. And so they're talking about their experiences and seeing death. Dr. Zach said it's so much death. Dr. Eugene talked about how people aren't coming for, because he's an emergency doctor. He was talking how people aren't coming for the typical things like heart attacks and other things, asthma attacks and other situations, but more so they're coming for COVID. They also talked about how doctors are kind of losing business because people aren't coming to the hospital during this kind of pandemic situation as they normally would have came to the hospital. Interestingly enough, Dr. Jackie and Dr. Simone are both gynecological doctors. So they deal with giving birth. And so their business never stopped because people continue to have babies even during a pandemic. So it's an interesting perspective you get from them, and you kind of get it even differently on a zodiological level, on a spiritual level, because you got Dr. Jackie, who's a Leo, you got Eugene, who's a Leo, you got Simone, who's a Pisces, and their takes are very different on the experiences that they are going through. So anyway, back to Toya and Anila on the tennis court. That's another thing that I find interesting about this show is a lot of people think about the South and they tend to think about kind of this backwards way of thinking, but you have a whole class of wealth professionals of different and diversity. And in many ways, the higher you go up on the chain, you begin to see kind of interaction and intermingling between people of different races and different ethnic groups, which is a fascinating thing that most people don't even think about, because if you come from bigger cities like here in LA, maybe in New York, even parts of Miami and other places, you kind of see different groups living amongst themselves in those areas in certain parts of the city. Whereas in Atlanta's big, but it's not so big to where people have their own little enclaves, right? It's kind of mixed up, like I said, especially when you go up to the upper levels of economic levels of society. And so you see the mixed neighborhood that Toya lives in. She has a good amount of African American women there. I thought that was cool. She has white women there. She has Anila, who represents the other different diversities of it. She's Persian. I'm gonna say she's Persian, but she might not be Persian. I think she's from India, so she's Indian. And her family's from India. So we get that dynamic and we see that interaction. And I thought that was cool. They play tennis, whatever. You get that. You get Toya's life, which is that. And then we go off to Dr. Jackie and Dr. Contessa. Now, Dr. Jackie and Dr. Contessa are two different people, right? But they do share a passion for medicine. And you kind of get a sense of that in the little nerdy conversation that they have on a doctor's level, which I thought was cute. But they can get along, right? They can talk to each other, because you got Jackie, who's a Leo, like I said, and you got Contessa, who's a Gemini. Gemini and Leo are generally good for communication and for friendships and for getting along. And we see about Dr. Contessa's office and all the things she's got going there, and she's expanding. You remember, she went to school. It caused a few marital issues for her, and her husband apparently seemed to be working their way through it. Dr. Jackie did something that I think is very good as a life coach. Everyone should have somebody that they're talking to in this moment, especially in everything that we're going through at this moment. Everyone should have somebody that they're talking to. Foot the bill, pay the little bit of money that you need to pay just for your mental health and sanity. I'm a life coach. Reach out to life coaches. There are therapists. Whatever of the level of whatever you need, reach out to those people, because this is a tough time for all people. You'll be amazed the amount of people that I talk to all the time who are like, I just need somebody to express all of the heaviness that has been on me. I just needed somebody to express my anger, my frustration, my joys, and I needed somebody to express that to, who didn't know me, because I didn't want to be judged on everything I was feeling or going through. And so I agree with Jackie. Everyone should be dealing with their issues in a healthy way talking to somebody who can help them to be present. And I think it's important to reach out to a life coach or to a therapist or a counselor. www.liftforyourcoaching.com is a great place to start if you're looking for a coach, or many other coaches. There are many out there, but you should be working on your mental health in this moment that we're in presently right now. So anyway, so she reminds Contessa, keep doing that work, because that work is going to help you get over through the situation that you're going through of opening a new business, of dealing with your marriage, of raising your children, and everything else, and the pandemic and all the other stuff that they have going on. You're going to need that. So I thought that was cool. And then you get the situation where you get Toya at home, and she's talking about her issues of being a parent, raising kids, and trying to homeschool, and all kinds of other things during this pandemic. And I think that was an important conversation to have out loud as well, too, because we neglect to know that. Toya's a stay-at-home mom, but the stay-at-home parents, especially during this time, who are not part of what we would call necessary workers, who are not out there working, they definitely have had an intense level of change in their reality over the past year. And so the workload that they generally would have had has tripled or doubled, or whatever the case may be. And it is a stressful thing. And you can finally, in this part, I finally heard Toya's frustration with where she is dealing with all this stuff. Because normally Toya comes across superficial, non-connected to anything that is of substance to me, in my opinion, in the 8 years that I've been watching this show. But I feel like now we get a sense of her reality being a little more complex and complicated than it has ever been before. And I totally sympathize with her, and I totally understand. I've been working from home myself, but that didn't stop my responsibilities. My responsibilities have still continued to go and grow, and it's part of what's going on. So I hear her. I hear completely the frustration that she does have. Then we meet Anila's family, and her family's interesting. Her mom's very outspoken and very powerful and aggressive and dominant in many ways in her personality. I would love to know her side. And so she comes in and she pretty much just takes over the house, right? And that's an interesting perspective, because what I like about Anila being here is we get a taste of Indian culture. And a lot of people don't realize that in Indian culture, the women are very dominant. India is a culture that's centered around female existence in many ways. If you study Indian culture and the Hindu religion, it is very female centric. There's other aspects to it, but that's a very important component. So a woman has the right to be forward and in some ways aggressive. And we tend to don't think that in the Western world, but it is actually that way. Talk to your Indian friends, meet somebody from India, ask questions. And so we get a kind of a sense of her mom being a very strong, dominating, somewhat overbearing presence in her life. And we get that from what Anila tells us about her and all of the situations with her parents and how they came from India and made a life for them. Her parents live in Savannah, and so it's an interesting, like I said, Anila's used to black people, right? She's used to people of color, African Americans specifically, because she's grown up in environments where that was her reality. They didn't always know where she should fit in with it, and that's a typical thing. She was a foreigner, an Indian of India in a black environment, so that is always an interesting experience. And her parents are traditionally Indian, so they practice the religion, they practice the customs, like the Rika, I want to say, celebration that she's going to have at the end of the episode, which I thought that celebration was kind of interestingly, I don't know the word, I don't want to say archaic, I don't want to say anything that is offensive to it. I just think the idea of the sister giving the brother, and I'm thinking, okay, in the modern world, we would think the brother would give to the sister too, and we kind of remix that up a little bit, but the traditions is still there. And so when I'm open up to understanding and to getting a good insight on is that it's part of the traditions, and she's keeping her traditions going. And so I think that that's the fascinating part of it, despite what it comes across as to a non-Indian person like myself. So no offense to nobody, I'm understanding it. I'm that type of visual person, so when I see things, I want to understand more about it. So of course I'm going to do my research on the traditions, which I should have did before I put this video on, but hey, I'm going to do the research, I promise you that. Anyway, So we get a sense of that. Her husband's a little annoyed by her family, her parents, because like I said, the mom is a little overbearing and a little bit aggressive, and that comes through. And they're a little bit more kind of not as clean. He seems to be very particular about a clean house and about things being neat and order and all that stuff. And so because of that, he's kind of irked a little bit about the house being messy and all kinds of crazy stuff, which I can get. In-laws, right? In-laws are in-laws no matter where they're from in the world. And so that's kind of how he feels. So we get that, and that's pretty cool. We get Anila also talking about her having her sons, Rika. I want to say that's the celebration called Rika Celebration. And she's going to invite Contessa because she has no issues with Contessa, even though she knows her really good friend, her good Judy, her fellow Aries, has a problem with her. And so we're going to see that interaction at the end of the episode. But it's a very interesting, these friendships are very interesting and dynamic because they're cut off in many ways. And kind of speaking of that cut off situation, we get Quad make her grand appearance for the season. Now, I like Quad on this show. Quad's energy is interesting for this show. She's not married to medicine anymore, but when she came on, she was married to medicine. But Quad brings in a dynamic. She's always brought in the youthful dynamic that I thought to this show. However, Quad, being a Taurus, have a lot of Taurian energy when she talks and when she deals with people. It's very forward. It's very dominant. The Taurus woman sometimes represents kind of a dominant force. And Quad does bring that energy, and sometimes it rubs the wrong way the other energies in the room. One of the people it rubbed was actually Dr. Heavily, who she was now interacting with and talking with and drinking up with and kicking it and talking about everything. And they kind of were touching base. She's dating. She's doing what she does. And then Dr. Heavily says, "How are you and Toya?" to Quad. And we find out that her and Toya, according to Quad, are in a good situation. But Dr. Heavily said, "I don't think so. I have a video." She plays a video that went viral that I actually seen a while ago about pretty much of Dr. Toya talking to Dr. Simone and her husband Cecil about Quad and saying Quad lives in an apartment. She's hanging out with Heavily and all this, kind of downing Quad in her situation. And that's when Quad unleashes, well, she stole, she begged, stole, and robbed, or something of that nature, cheated to get her house, and I know more about her than she thinks I know about, than I know about, and she don't want me to put all that out there. So there goes the Quad that we know. The Quad that seems to do research on her cast members for a time that she might need to throw that information out there, because she's done that before on multiple seasons, many episodes in the past. So that seems to be a character flaw I think Quad may have, that she collects receipts on her friends, which is something I wouldn't want around me. I wouldn't want somebody in my life who, you're a friend of mine, but until you collecting receipts on me, until you have something to spray me in the event that we fall out. That would be a little annoying for me. But one of my policies is authenticity and openness and be up and honest. So if you know something about me, everybody knows something about me. You have no secrets on me that I won't tell nobody myself. Authenticity, truth, upfrontness, that's who I am. So, but Quad seems to do that. So that was a very interesting dynamic. I want to fast forward to the party because it gets kind of interesting. Anila's family her mom's very upfront. She's very kind of almost aggressive. Like, did the mom want to be on the show? Should she get a coat and be married to medicine? Is she married to medicine? I know her dad, she said her dad went to Virginia Tech. Did he get a medical degree? Because if she did, then mama needs to be on the show. Because mama a little aggressive and putting herself in the mix of everything. And I'm going to skip to talk about when they get into the argument. Because, yes, they go through the festival, the celebration. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's cute. It's enriched with culture. I love it. But, of course, the meat and potatoes of that final scene time is the argument between Dr. Contessa and Dr. Contessa and Toya. Dr. Contessa and Toya are two of opposites. Oil and water, right? Dr. Contessa being the Gemini, Toya being the Aries. Sometimes that can work, because I've actually read many spiritual books that said Aries and Gemini make a perfect couple. And I think because it's that fire and that air kind of fueling the fire, and but that can be a combustible mix as well. Air can cause fire to blow up. right? Right, right. And so, and fire can suck all the air out the room. So you can kind of have a situation where that don't mix, and those two don't mix. And I know that personally because one of my former close friends, hi Dave, you may be watching. One of my former close friends was an Aries. And it seemed like we'd be fine. And then one conversational disagreement, and we're blowing up, yelling at each other, and it was just this crazy. And it seemed like that happened every time we were around, for an extended period of time. So it got to a point where we just couldn't have conversations anymore because if they went one way, it would just go somewhere else, and I didn't like it. So that was a friendship I had to let go. I mean, completely, just let that go. It was not good for me. And it wasn't good to keep if that was always the case. But I can totally see and feel and know personally the fireworks between Contessa and Toya. And so we get an argument that breaks out over different things. Toya's upset at Contessa because Contessa said something about her house, and Toya felt it was like a slight on her. Contessa didn't want to take off her shoes or something. It's come crazy. It was just minuscule. And then it goes on and on to where Toya had overheard Contessa saying something specifically about her house, about it being dirty, I think, or about COVID or something crazy. And that became the kind of the catalyst for Toya having a beef or issue with Contessa. And they're arguing back and forth in front of Anila's parents, which I thought was inappropriate. Yes, they got rid of the kids, I think, because they knew it was going to go left, or at least the producers was like, you might want to send the kids away because this could go left. These two don't like each other, and it went left. And so it just got to a point to where Contessa was up and she was angry and she was ready to leave, and Anila's mom grabbed her and went, no, you're not going anywhere. No, stay here. Listen to me. I'm older than you. Stay. Contessa said something that I thought was on point. Your culture might be to be touchy. Our culture is don't touch me, right? And I thought that was so funny because it is true. Some cultures are embracing, but as far as black culture, we generally like, give me my space, especially when I'm mad, because you don't know how I'm going to respond. And I thought Anila thought Contessa was disrespectful for kind of saying that to her mom, that you don't touch me. But at the end of the day, your mom needs to step back. You grabbing a black woman, so you might have a problem. And an angry black woman at the moment. That's not Contessa's personality, but she was mad at the moment, so you didn't know how that would turn out and play out. Mama could have wound up on the ground, and it would have to be an apology later on. We wouldn't want that, but you never know. Don't grab angry people. People walk away. Just let them deal with it in the way they're going to deal with it. And Contessa's way of dealing with it was, I want to leave because I don't like this. It doesn't feel good, and she left. Rightly so, right? It could go worse. We've seen Toya fight on this show, and we've seen a whole bunch of other things. And so at the end of the day, Contessa was like, I'm not going to engage in this. I'm going to walk away. So what you have going on is a lot of energies, right? Toya and Contessa, everybody else seems to be taking the back seat to this argument right now. And I think Anila is adding to it by trying to be friends with both and trying to bring them together because she likes both of them. But the truth is, you can have friends who don't like each other, just don't bring them around each other so that any sense of conflict that might arise, don't arise, because that ain't cute, especially in front of your parents, Anila. So guess what? I think she said in an episode, I was wrong. You're absolutely right. You were wrong. Because you're not, obviously, clearly not a mediator in this situation or a person who is of a neutral party. Toya is your friend, and you want Contessa to see Toya the way you see Toya, but Contessa has a history with Toya before you had a history with Toya. And so at the end of the day, you can't tell her that she should like Toya because you like Toya. She doesn't like Toya because she has a history with Toya. And Toya doesn't like her because she has a history with Contessa, clearly. So Anila, back out, stay out of that, and keep your friends if you go to places apart from each other for the time being. This was an interesting episode. This season is turning out to be interesting. I will say this, bravo. Let me chime, ching, time and put in a little information. Atlanta also has African doctors. Doctors who came from Nigeria or from Ghana or from Kenya who are with wives and they're married to medicine. So I also would like to, if you're including diversity, because this show is a show that is centered around African American doctors and their significant others, I would love for you to also include some of our African people, maybe our Caribbean, because Atlanta got Jamaican doctors and doctors from Brazil who are of African descent. Bring them in there Find some other doctors. If you're trying to match across the diaspora, go ahead and bring us some more of that diasporic energy. Bring us some Africa, bring us some Nigerian, bring us some Ghanaian or Kenyan, or bring us some South American or some Central American or some Caribbean, so that we can get the whole flavor of the African diaspora. I love it. It's very melanated and it's very powerful, because you will probably get to see some of the interactions between African Americans, people of Africa, from Africa, the continent, and people from South America, Central America, Latin America, the Caribbean, black people, and how we interact, because that's some dynamics there too. That's a storyline in itself. So I would love to see that. So yeah, bring them into the show. That'd be great. That'll make the show so much better. Or it'll add to the show, just like adding Anila added to the show. So anyway, I hope y'all enjoyed the episode. I will be back doing another one of these episodes of recaps according to a life coach's perspective on the episode here. So you can come back next week. We'll go talk to the same thing. It was great. It was great for me. I enjoyed the episode, and I'm going to continue to watch the season. Married to Medicine is an adult show. It's for a working professional and a black working professional, and I love seeing it because I feel like it represents people who are like me. Not just people who are in the elite wealth scene, because it's not me, but I'm a working professional. I'm a professional guy with degrees and all those stuff, and I enjoy seeing other working professionals interact with one another, and what most of us, including myself, still aspire to be. Anyway, I love you, love you, love you, as I always say, and I will see you in the next video.